Some machines transcend their purpose. They become statements about how we define progress and beauty. There is something magnetic about a creation that captures both precision and emotion. Something that makes you pause and wonder how craftsmanship can express character. When design, engineering, and ambition meet at their highest point, the result can outlast every trend, every decade, every fleeting obsession with the new. It becomes a reference point, a reminder that excellence never goes out of style. It simply evolves with those who appreciate it. Today, we are exploring one such icon, a masterpiece that bridged eras and redefined what timeless luxury could look and feel like. If you enjoy stories of machines that shaped culture as much as technology, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more deep dives, and comment on which classic you want us to feature next. The Mercedes-Benz W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 represented more than a beautiful car. It was a philosophy on wheels. In an era when most manufacturers were chasing mass production and cost efficiency, Mercedes decided to create a convertible that defied the direction of the industry. The W111 platform had already earned a reputation for safety and refinement, but the 280 SE Cabriolet elevated those values into an art form. Its every contour, stitch, and mechanical detail reflected a kind of craftsmanship that was becoming increasingly rare by the late 1960s. The story begins with context. The automotive world was shifting fast. Consumers wanted faster, louder, more radical designs. Yet Mercedes approached the convertible not as a thrill machine, but as a statement of enduring class. The W111 280 SE Cabriolet emerged from the post-war Reconstruction era of Germany, when Mercedes was determined to rebuild not just its factories but its reputation. Each car was hand-assembled, each panel individually aligned, each interior component finished by craftsmen who had spent decades perfecting their art. This was not about building many cars. It was about building the best possible car. The Cabriolet was based on the W111 chassis, which had introduced pioneering safety concepts like crumple zones and rigid passenger cells. Mercedes had learned that elegance and safety could coexist. Luxury did not have to mean fragility. The 280 SE Cabriolet carried that lesson forward with the precision of a Swiss watch. Its long hood, upright grille, and sweeping rear fins made it recognizable instantly. It looked both stately and sensual. But beneath that classic form lay forward-thinking engineering. The 2.8-liter inline-six engine delivered smooth power with Bosch mechanical fuel injection, producing around 160 horsepower, enough to move the nearly 2-ton car with serene confidence. The power delivery was linear, the idle nearly silent, and the experience deeply satisfying rather than aggressive. Drivers spoke of its composure. It glided rather than surged, yet it could hold high speeds on the autobahn without strain. The suspension used Mercedes's trademark independent setup, giving the Cabriolet an almost uncanny balance between ride comfort and handling precision. Road tests of the day remarked how the car seemed to float over rough pavement while remaining completely planted in corners. The interior amplified that duality. Soft leather seating, real wood trim, and polished metal accents formed an environment that felt like a private lounge. Every switch had weight and purpose. Even the convertible top, crafted from thick layered fabric, sealed with precision when raised, turning the open-air cruiser into a near-silent grand tourer. What made the 280 SE Cabriolet so remarkable was that it was never about speed figures or racing pedigree. It was about the sensation of effortlessness. You could drive it all day and arrive without fatigue, your passengers smiling, the cabin unruffled. It represented a form of engineering empathy. Mercedes' understanding that true luxury was not excess, but refinement. Only a small number were built between 1961 and 1971, with the 280 SE version arriving at the end of the run. Each car was a testament to the brand's refusal to compromise even as manufacturing costs climbed. The price tag was steep, almost prohibitively so, ensuring exclusivity but also signaling the car's hand-built origins. It was a car you ordered, waited for, and cherished. The Cabriolet's elegance extended beyond design. It carried an aura of stability in a decade marked by cultural upheaval. While the world around it chased radical ideas, the W111 280 SE Cabriolet whispered of confidence, composure, and continuity. It was the kind of car owned by those who preferred understatement to spectacle. The chrome trim was not decoration, it was punctuation, carefully balanced against the soft curves of the body. Mercedes' commitment to detail was visible even in unseen places. Door hinges milled from solid metal, wiring looms wrapped by hand, and paint applied in multiple coats for depth and durability. The result was an object of permanence, something meant to be handed down, not traded in. The W111 280SE Cabriolet arrived at a time when the notion of luxury itself was changing. Jet travel and modern architecture were redefining elegance as sleek and minimalist. Yet here was a car that managed to feel timeless rather than dated. It connected to both tradition and innovation. For Mercedes, this was strategic. The company was positioning itself as the global leader in understated prestige. The Cabriolet embodied that ambition perfectly. Its silhouette communicated restraint, while its engineering spoke volumes about capability. It did not scream for attention. It earned it. As more drivers experienced the 280SE, they began to associate Mercedes with something deeper than mere status. A sense of assurance that everything about the car had been considered and perfected. The W111 became the bridge between the handcrafted era and the modern production age, and the Cabriolet stood as its most exquisite form. But what truly distinguished this car was not just how it looked or how it drove, it was how it made people feel. There was something ritualistic about lowering the top on a calm morning, hearing the mechanical hum of the engine, and feeling the steady pulse of engineering excellence beneath your feet. It was a sensory experience that reminded you of the human touch behind the machine. This emotional connection is what elevates the 280SE Cabriolet beyond collector status. It represents a philosophy. Every line, sound, and movement expressed confidence without arrogance. Mercedes managed to capture not just a design language but a worldview. A belief that progress should feel effortless, not forced. In many ways, the 1969 model was the last of its kind. A final chapter before automation and standardization changed the industry forever. Yet it remains relevant today because its values, quality, balance, and grace, never went out of style. The Mercedes-Benz W111 280SE Cabriolet 1969 stands as the embodiment of that truth. It reminds us that sometimes, the most powerful statement a car can make is delivered in a whisper of perfection. And that is where the story deepens. Beneath the aesthetic beauty lay an extraordinary engineering evolution that set the tone for decades of Mercedes innovation to come. And that is exactly what we will explore next. The Mercedes-Benz W111 280SE Cabriolet 1969 was not born in isolation. It was the culmination of decades of technical evolution. By the time this model appeared, Mercedes engineers had already built a reputation for pioneering safety and structural innovation. The W111 platform had introduced crumple zones years before the concept became standard. It combined a rigid passenger cell with controlled deformation areas designed to absorb impact energy. That approach reflected Mercedes's broader philosophy. True luxury was inseparable from safety and stability. In the 280SE Cabriolet, this translated to a chassis that felt both solid and supple. You could sense the car's weight and integrity even at idle. It communicated confidence through silence. The steering had deliberate resistance, a reassuring heaviness that reminded you this was a machine built to last. Every movement carried purpose. The 280SE's mechanical heart, the 2.8-liter inline-six, was a model of refinement. It used Bosch mechanical fuel injection, a system adapted from racing technology but reimagined for smoothness and reliability. This engine was not about brute output. It was about character. It delivered power progressively, turning the car into a wave of calm energy. Unlike carbureted engines of its rivals, the 280SE responded predictably, regardless of altitude or temperature. It started cleanly, idled smoothly, and delivered torque in a steady, composed fashion. That predictability reinforced the sense of quality. You trusted the car because it behaved impeccably. The transmission options mirrored this balance of sophistication and control. Most owners chose the 4-speed automatic, which shifted with the kind of deliberateness that suited the car's personality. It was not fast but graceful. It didn't snap between gears but flowed from one to the next. The engineering emphasis was always on harmony. Even the braking system, with 4-wheel discs, was tuned to provide progressive feel rather than sharp response. The Mercedes-Benz W111 280SE Cabriolet 1969 embodied the belief that precision was a form of respect for the driver. Mercedes engineers tested each assembly to microscopic tolerances. Doors closed with a soft but final sound. Gauges moved smoothly, never jittery. These details mattered because they conveyed a message. This was a car designed by people who cared about how it made you feel. Beneath that calm surface, however, lay a complex mechanical symphony. The front suspension used double wishbones, while the rear featured Mercedes' swing axle design with compensator spring. A layout carefully tuned to eliminate the quirks that earlier versions had shown. The ride quality was remarkable. Where other convertibles of the time shook and flexed, the 280 SE Cabriolet remained composed, even over uneven roads. Engineers achieved this by reinforcing the floor pan and body structure with additional bracing. The result was a car that felt more like a solid coupe than an open top. It invited you to drive farther, to trust its poise. The Cabriolet's hand-built nature was also its engineering signature. Unlike mass-produced sedans, each convertible body was assembled and finished in a specialized workshop at Sindelfingen. Craftsmen adjusted panel gaps by hand, fitted trim pieces individually, and checked alignment repeatedly. The paint process involved multiple layers of primer and color coats, each polished to depth. No two cars were identical because each received personal attention. This human element gave the 280 SE Cabriolet a warmth that few modern vehicles possess. Mechanically, the W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 stood at the intersection of tradition and innovation. It retained mechanical linkages where others were experimenting with electronics, yet its precision exceeded anything else in its class. Even the ventilation system, often an afterthought in that era, was engineered for efficiency. Mercedes studied airflow patterns to ensure even temperature distribution without draftiness. The attention extended to acoustics. Engineers analyzed how sound traveled through the cabin, ensuring that even at high speeds, wind noise remained low. This quietness amplified the sense of serenity that defined the 280 SE experience. The more you study this car, the more it reveals about Mercedes' mindset. Every technical choice reflected a larger principle: reliability through over-engineering. Nothing was done halfway. For example, the convertible top mechanism was a masterpiece of simplicity and durability, using heavy-duty linkages and precision latches that continue to function decades later. The hydraulic components were sealed meticulously, the wiring harness protected by thick insulation. Owners of the W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 discovered that their cars aged gracefully, not because of luck, but because every part had been designed with longevity in mind. Even the chrome-plated fittings resisted corrosion better than industry norms. Mercedes did not chase trends. It engineered permanence. What's fascinating is how this philosophy carried forward into later models. The W111 280 SE Cabriolet became the reference point for future luxury convertibles. Its balance of performance, comfort, and craftsmanship defined what a grand touring car should be. Rivals tried to imitate its formula but often missed the essence: its quiet confidence. The 280 SE was not about asserting dominance. It was about reassuring competence. It communicated through feel, not spectacle. For collectors and historians, the car represents a pivotal transition. It marked the end of the hand-built Mercedes era before automation reshaped the brand's production lines. Later cars would become faster, safer, and more efficient, but they would rarely capture this level of tactile intimacy. The W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 reminds us that engineering is as much about emotion as precision. Every mechanical rhythm, every detail of craftsmanship, reflected human intention. Even now, decades later, that presence remains palpable when you drive one. You feel the weight of its steering, the linear pull of its engine, the calm confidence in its suspension. It connects you to a time when engineering excellence was pursued not for marketing but for mastery. And that pursuit created a legacy that continues to shape the Mercedes identity today. What began as an engineering statement evolved into a cultural touchstone. The 280 SE Cabriolet became more than transport. It became an ambassador for a way of thinking about progress. That is why its story does not end with mechanics. Its influence reached deep into design philosophy, brand perception, and the very idea of what luxury should mean. In the next segment, we will explore how the Mercedes-Benz W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 transcended engineering to become a timeless cultural icon and a symbol of enduring elegance. The Mercedes-Benz W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 did more than showcase engineering excellence. It became a cultural and emotional benchmark for how people perceived luxury. In a decade of upheaval and change, this car represented stability and taste. When others flaunted excess, it expressed confidence through restraint. That quiet poise made it a favorite among leaders, artists, and discerning collectors. The 280 SE Cabriolet embodied success without spectacle. It said everything by saying very little. Its presence on the road commanded respect, not because it was loud or flashy, but because it radiated calm precision. Every design element told a story about control, proportion, and self-awareness. The chrome accents reflected light like jewelry, not decoration. The long, elegant hood created a sense of importance, while the compact rear balanced the visual weight perfectly. These were not coincidences. They were deliberate artistic choices rooted in Mercedes's understanding of timeless aesthetics. Inside, the cabin was a world apart from the turbulence of the late 1960s. While music, fashion, and politics were shifting rapidly, the 280 SE Cabriolet offered an environment of measured grace. Its wood veneers, leather finishes, and analog gauges formed an orchestra of tactile pleasure. The absence of clutter created a sense of peace. You could imagine driving along a coastal highway, the soft hum of the inline-six blending with the wind, the car effortlessly bridging the worlds of machine and art. The Mercedes-Benz W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 became the quintessential symbol of cultivated luxury, an object that spoke to refinement of character as much as wealth. Over time, this perception only deepened. As newer models arrived with more technology and less hand craftsmanship, the old cabriolet began to represent something lost. Collectors sought it not only for its beauty but for its authenticity. It was a product of human hands and human standards. Every imperfection was an imprint of craftsmanship, not compromise. Its scarcity added to the allure. With fewer than 1,400 units produced, it was destined to be rare. Yet rarity alone does not create legend. What kept the W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 relevant was its integrity. It did not chase trends or fade with time. It defined a set of values: precision, dignity, endurance, that still resonate with car enthusiasts today. Modern Mercedes convertibles owe their identity to it. The 280 SE established the emotional blueprint. Elegance first, technology in service of experience. Even the design language of later decades, from the sharp-edged coupes of the 1980s to the sculpted Grand Tourers of the 2000s, carried traces of its DNA. The Cabriolet taught Mercedes that luxury was about how something makes you feel the moment you touch it, not just how it performs on paper. It was a car that spoke directly to the senses. Collectors who restore or drive the Mercedes-Benz W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 often describe it as meditative. There is no rush, no noise, no demand for validation. You simply exist with the car. It rewards calm attention. The slow steering reminds you to plan your moves, the gentle acceleration encourages patience, and the soft suspension tells you to enjoy the journey. In this sense, it is both a car and a teacher. It shows that elegance is discipline, doing more with less, valuing substance over display. In the modern world of hypercars and digital dashboards, that philosophy feels almost radical again. When you see a W111 280 SE Cabriolet at a concours event or gliding down a boulevard, it has an aura that modern cars struggle to match. That aura comes from authenticity. Nothing about it is simulated. The leather smells like leather, the wood feels like wood, and the controls feel mechanical and real. The experience is analog in the best possible way. It connects driver and machine through trust. You do not command it. You collaborate with it. That relationship is why collectors continue to pay extraordinary prices for well-preserved examples. Beyond monetary value, the car carries emotional gravity. It reminds people that true luxury is timeless, not temporary. For Mercedes as a brand, the W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 represents the pinnacle of its classic era. It encapsulates everything the company wanted to express before the global expansion of the 1970s reshaped its image. It was the final bridge between artisanal craftsmanship and industrial efficiency. As such, it became a sacred reference point. Every new generation of Mercedes designers studies it, not just for form but for philosophy. They analyze its stance, its balance, its proportions. They understand that the 280 SE Cabriolet was not designed to impress. It was designed to endure. This distinction separates icons from trends. Cars that impress fade quickly. Cars that endure become legends. And the W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 is precisely that. A legend, preserved not just in museums but in memory. When enthusiasts describe the perfect Grand Tourer, they often unconsciously echo the 280 SE's attributes. Comfort without compromise, elegance without ostentation, engineering without excess. It set a benchmark that continues to influence automotive culture worldwide. As we reflect on its cultural impact, one truth becomes clear. This car captured an ideal of civilization itself. It was about grace under pressure, order amid change, beauty through purpose. The Mercedes-Benz W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 continues to teach that technology should serve humanity, not replace it. In that lesson lies its eternal relevance. But before we close, it is worth examining how this timeless convertible's values continue to resonate today. How its spirit lives on not only in Mercedes's design but in our enduring fascination with authenticity and craft. The Mercedes-Benz W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 stands as more than a historic machine. It is a living conversation between past and present. To understand its ongoing resonance, you only need to look at how car culture has evolved. In a world where everything moves faster, where technology dominates every interaction, the 280 SE Cabriolet offers a kind of antidote. It reminds us that luxury can be quiet, that performance can be graceful, and that progress without soul is not progress at all. When you sit in one today, you feel the intentionality behind every surface. The thin steering wheel, the delicate chrome switches, the analog dials, all of them serve a purpose beyond function. They connect you to a time when cars were extensions of human touch and intuition. Driving the Mercedes-Benz W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 now is not about nostalgia. It is about rediscovering balance. The car asks nothing more than to be driven with attention and respect. Its movements are unhurried yet precise. Its presence dignified yet approachable. It invites reflection on how design shapes emotion. Each journey becomes a conversation between the driver and decades of engineering wisdom. The engine hums with confidence. The chassis carries weight like a statement of integrity. This kind of experience is nearly extinct in modern automobiles, where digital filters mediate every sensation. Yet that is why the W111 remains so captivating. It represents a human-centered era, one that believed craftsmanship and authenticity were worth the extra effort. Collectors who own these cars often describe them as art you can drive. They are not simply preserving a vehicle. They are safeguarding an ideal. The Mercedes-Benz W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 proves that design excellence and moral clarity can coexist in steel and leather. Its influence continues to echo in every modern Mercedes that values serenity over spectacle. You see it in the restrained proportions of today's convertibles, in the focus on tactile quality, in the insistence that technology should enhance rather than dominate. The lineage is clear because the philosophy never changed. Mercedes learned from the W111 that success is not measured only in performance metrics but in how a car makes you feel years later. That emotional longevity is the true currency of design. For enthusiasts and historians, the Cabriolet remains a touchstone for what happens when engineering, artistry, and empathy align. Its elegance transcends style. It becomes a form of truth. When you witness one on the road, its silhouette gliding quietly through traffic, you understand why so many consider it one of the most perfectly resolved automotive forms ever built. There is nothing excessive, nothing missing. Every line earns its place. Every sound has meaning. Every movement reveals balance. The Mercedes-Benz W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 continues to inspire not through nostalgia but through example. It shows that integrity never ages. It encourages a generation raised on speed and spectacle to slow down and appreciate the craftsmanship of patience. That message is perhaps more relevant today than it was in 1969. As the automotive world shifts toward electrification and automation, the W111 Cabriolet stands as a beacon of the human element. reminding us that emotion and engineering are not opposites but partners. Its legacy extends beyond the garage into the collective imagination. Designers, collectors, and dreamers see in it the blueprint of timeless luxury. Form balanced with function, restraint paired with confidence. That is why the story of the Mercedes-Benz W111 280 SE Cabriolet 1969 never truly ends. Each time someone restores one, drives one, or simply admires one, the conversation continues. It speaks to our shared desire for permanence in a disposable age. The 280 SE Cabriolet embodies that rare combination of mechanical honesty and emotional depth. It tells us that true craftsmanship is not about perfection, but about purpose. And that purpose remains as compelling now as it was more than half a century ago. This is the lasting power of the W111 280 SE Cabriolet, the timeless convertible that turned elegance into engineering and engineering into art.